Good mythical morning, everybody. Okay, that was dumb. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, I've got a very interesting pattern to show you guys. In this video, I want to ask the question, is $7,713 the value to beat based on this pattern that I'm about to show you in today's video? Before we get into it, though, I have to give credit where credit's due. They don't know I'm using this idea, but I'm going to. Over here in the Crypto Jeb Discord server, as you can see, a member by the name of Freedom Rider posted this chart formation right here, and it gave me the idea for this video, specifically mentioning this downtrend right here. Now, this screenshot was obviously taken before the massive collapse on Bitcoin that we've seen recently, but it did start me wondering, is there any significance to that downtrend of resistance? Is there any significance to that level of support that was shown on that chart I just showed you? Does that descending triangle pattern at the end of the 2019 bull market mean something? And if we get back up to that level of resistance, what happens from there? In the last couple of minutes, I've been doing a lot of thinking about technical analysis, and I want to share quite a bit of it with you in this video. I think you guys are going to enjoy this video. If you do, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Let's see if we can get to 800 likes. I want to see if we can do that. I'd be very appreciative if we could. We've also got some things we want to talk about over on Twitter, because as you know, the world has basically just been printing money and summoning it out of thin air. Like, I need some effects of just money coming out of my hand right there. I'll be like the Fed. I just poof, it's here. But at the same time, CZ from Binance is posting about how Binance is doing a $52 million Binance coin burn. While the rest of the world is printing money and inflating, cryptocurrencies are going through halvings and burn cycles. We're instituting deflation at the exact same time that the rest of the world currencies are inflating. I want to talk about that too. There's also a few things I want to talk about as it relates to stock to flow values and the halving coming up. So if you guys find that interesting, like I said, hit that like and subscribe button. Before we dive on into it, I do first want to mention the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, guys. It is currently on sale, and many of you guys have been joining as of late. I'm very excited about that because that means that you guys are taking this opportunity that we're all locked indoors to invest in your education and learn technical analysis so that you can profitably trade these markets. I'm very excited about that because, guys, technical analysis was one of the most profitable skills I ever learned, and I really want you guys to do the same. Links for everything in the description down below. There is a big sale running, so make sure you check that out too. But without much further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Guys, I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to see how Bitcoin's going to play out here over the next few months. I'm also really excited to see how Bitcoin's going to play out as it relates to this massive pattern that we were just looking at. Let's jump to the chart. As you can see here, I've roughly set up a pattern on the chart similar to what Freedom Rider was showing in our Discord server with our downtrend right here on the linear chart and a zone of support right here. As you can see, we very obviously fell through this zone of support on Black Thursday back on March the 12th. But in general, Bitcoin's been attempting to get back up through here. And if we bring up our VPVR, we can see there is actually a lot of resistance classifying this zone. We have a major VPVR climax at the bottom and a major VPVR climax at the top and one in the middle, kind of creating the bounding boxes and the filler for that zone of support/resistance. Right now, it's acting as resistance. Over the last few weeks, Bitcoin rallied very quickly back up into the box here, but it slowed its ascent during this uptrend because it has gotten into all of this resistance zone that we built back here in November and December of 19 and going as far back as September and October of 2018. Needless to say, the zone between around $6,450 and $7,700 and change is significant. And I didn't just pick those two numbers out of thin air. As you guys can see on our wicks down here, these two wicks back here in September of 19 and the top right here just before Christmas in 2019 and a bottom right here in January of 20 represent a very clear area that this box should be finalized at. As for the support here, on the 25th of November and around the 16th to 17th of December, we came very clearly down to this bottom, and again, we tested it just a few days ago. Good news and bad news here. Bad news first. It's going to be difficult for Bitcoin to get through this resistance. We've seen reasons for that in the past couple of days. One, Bitcoin is still technically setting a lower high compared to what it set back earlier on in April when we set a high around $7,500. Good news, however, is that we're actually pretty far into this zone of resistance, which means that we're pretty safely inside that zone, even if we might not be all the way through it yet. One more point to make is that we are still above the 50 daily simple moving average, something we talked about a few days ago, and something that I consider to be very, very important. Go watch that video on a pattern that one of our subscribers, Eddie, showed us. That video will be linked right there. Anyway, moving back to the chart, there are a few things that I want to mention down here on our oscillators. Number one, MACD is still bullish, but we are unfortunately starting to converge bearish again. As you can see, we've seen our first day of convergence ever since about the 15th of April, tax day. Likewise, just as on the chart, we've seen a double top on our RSI down here sitting around 57 to 58, which is not exactly good news, but one thing that I find interesting on the RSI is that we do currently have an uptrending level of support as well. Of course, since RSI typically, unless you're seeing divergence, mirrors the chart, we're seeing the exact same thing on the chart with an uptrending level of support there and a flat level of resistance right there. But what does this mean? Well, guys, as always, it means that we're in another consolidation pattern. It seems like Bitcoin will never be out of a consolidation pattern. It'll break one and immediately go into another. That's just the way these markets move, but it is significant. Because if Bitcoin is going to break out, it has to break through something. So what is it going to break through? Well, it has to break through a level of support or resistance. And generally, Bitcoin has support and resistance. So generally, Bitcoin is in a consolidation pattern. I hope that makes sense, and that's a logical train of thought I just put there. Unfortunately, at the time of recording this video, Bitcoin is trending to the downside from where it was later last night. That being said, Bitcoin is, of course, still above two important levels of support, the uptrending level and the 50 DSMA. My question here is not whether or not Bitcoin is going to come down to this 50 DSMA or down to this uptrending level of support. My question has to do with this longer term pattern that we talked about earlier. You see, over the last year, Bitcoin has had a propensity for returning back to that downtrending level of resistance. So the question I have is, if Bitcoin breaks the top of this zone of resistance, breaking what is clearly over the last year the biggest VPVR spike of resistance, are we heading straight for that downtrend of resistance again, like we've talked about so many times in the past few months? Well, this is really nostalgic of some technical analysis that we were doing about a year ago here on the channel, because we kept talking about Bitcoin going to one of those downtrending levels of resistance, and that being a crucial decision point. If Bitcoin broke it, we may be heading much farther to the upside. Unfortunately, Bitcoin never did that, but with all of the developments that we've seen recently, the weakening of the economies on the geopolitical stage and the strengthening of Bitcoin's fundamentals and the trust in this space following people seeing how well Bitcoin's done, it brings me to the question, can Bitcoin get back to that level? And if so, can it break it? Well, that's an interesting question, and it leads us back to the title of today's video. Is $7,700 the price to beat? The answer, in my opinion, is a resounding yes. Bitcoin has a level right here sitting around $7,713 and change. The top of this bounding box of this resistance zone, Bitcoin needs to break above it. From there, we have more resistance. We have to break the 200. Of course, we want to be above that anyway because Bitcoin tends to be above that during bull markets. And then if we look at our VPVR, guys, the sky's kind of the limit. We can get right up here to this downtrend of resistance. But that's all hope and prayer until we have a reason to believe that it's going to happen. I'll tell you what I think. There are a lot of people getting stimulus checks, and a lot of stimulus money is coming over the next few weeks. I don't think a lot of it's going to go into Bitcoin. Someone thought that's what I was saying in the previous video. That's not what I was saying. I was saying it might have a small boost to Bitcoin as people have more liquidity and people that don't necessarily need the stimulus check get it anyway, and then they decide to invest it in Bitcoin. I think it'll have a small impact on Bitcoin, but maybe not even noticeable. It'll probably be negligible. The thing that interests me is when people start going back to work and people start being more conservative and people stop going out to the movies 4 times a week, stop going out to eat every weekend, they stop spending money on useless trash and consumerism, and they start being more careful with their money. What happens when the economy rebounds and people are more scared of losing the lifestyle that they have right now, so they stop wasting money on nonsense and they start investing it? Well, one, that's obviously going to impact the stock market, because when someone doesn't know anything about money, the first thing they think is, oh, I need to go invest in the Dow Jones because that's what the news talks about. But there's going to be a subset of those people who get more interested in investing and making money in entrepreneurship that are going to turn to Bitcoin. I don't see Bitcoin returning to that downtrend of resistance now, but I do wonder if 3 months from now we might be hitting our heads on it. And it's something I want to hear your take on in the comment section down below. Because the funny thing here is, guys, is that Bitcoin, yes, it is below a lot of the levels that it was at and using as support before. We're using them as resistance now. But look at the weekly chart. The astute among you who see where I'm going with this already know what I'm going to say. Look at this MACD down here. Sure, the daily chart's converging bearish. Sure, the monthly chart is bearish. But the monthly chart has been bearish for nearly a year. What about this weekly? It is pointing very clearly to the upside. It is pointing very clearly to a cross. And guys, crosses on the weekly chart happen with about the same frequency as golden and death crosses. They're almost the same indicator. It's striking if you look at them that way. A cross on the MACD happens first, and then a golden or a death cross will follow it very shortly thereafter if you're looking at the weekly chart MACD. Well, guys, I think there's a golden cross coming to Bitcoin in the next couple of months, and it looks like there's a golden cross coming on the MACD in the next couple of weeks, as you can see right here. I want you to chew on that and digest that a little bit. Do you think that Bitcoin is going to recover very, very well after all of this is said and done? Where do you think Bitcoin is heading? Do you think we're going back to that downtrending level of resistance? I want to hear your take on that in the comments section down below. Furthermore, Let's see if we can get that like button to have an 800 beside it. Guys, I know we can do it. Hit that like and subscribe button. I would be very appreciative if you did. Anyway, moving on here to highlight the difference between what's going on in cryptocurrency and what's going on in the real world right now, you can really see two competing philosophies. One philosophy is, let's print money out of thin air and screw over the future generations for the ideal of fixing a broken economy that needed to go through a recession and a restructuring anyway. That's what's happening on the federal and the international level. But then you have cryptocurrency. Changpeng Zhao, otherwise known as CZ at Binance, the CEO over there, said he shares some random thoughts in this blog. As you can see, for our 11th quarterly BNB burn, Binance burned 3.3 million BNB, equivalent to 52 million United States dollars. Imagine if the Federal Reserve burned money. It doesn't happen. Imagine if they got rid of money in circulation, took that hit instead of taking the hit of inflation, and instead of losing 2% on your dollar every year, you gain 2% on the dollar every year. And yes, I realize there would be a stupid amount of economic ramifications to that. That's not my point. Just think about what would happen if that did happen. It's a thought experiment I want you to chew on. Not to mention, remember guys, the stock-to-flow ratio on Bitcoin is about to massively increase. As you can see, remember how we were talking about a price target with that downtrend of resistance around $8,500? Where's this level suggest we're heading a little over $8,000, maybe about $9,000? Well, that's exactly what the stock-to-flow ratio is predicting on Bitcoin, and that stock-to-flow ratio prediction increases as the halving comes closer in about 20 days. There is inflation of the United States dollar, of the euro, of the yen, of every single currency on planet Earth right now as central banks try to curtail the effects of an incoming recession. And at the same time, we're seeing deflation in Binance coin, and we're seeing the inflation rate on Bitcoin cut in half by a halving that is very coincidentally timed, by the way. But it's really interesting to me because what it means is that there's two competing philosophies right now. And I think over the next 10 or 20 years, we're going to see one come out on top. Because a wise man once said that philosophies are not tried in the good times, they're tried in the bad times. If a philosophy will do you well and serve you well in the good times as well as the bad, you should hold on to it. But if it only works when times are good, and it falls apart and crumbles when times get bad, how useful really is it? Do you need wisdom when things are going well? Wisdom, in my mind, is the anticipation and the solution of events and problems that haven't yet arisen. Think about that. It's going to be important over the next few years. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it out for today's video. I've got a lot of plans coming up. I'm excited about this year, but before we go, I do first want to mention one thing, and that would be the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. Guys, the sale here on CT2A will be running for a few more days. Many of you guys have joined lately, and that makes me really happy because that means you guys are wanting to invest in your education in technical analysis and cryptocurrency, and taking the first step is the most important thing. I have a friend who wants to start a YouTube channel, and I told her, you can continue thinking about all of these videos you want to do. The most important thing is you get it in stone, you make your first video, and it goes out today. You have to pull the trigger on your dreams, or they will never come true. And by the way, I'm not saying if you don't join CT2A that your dreams aren't going to come true. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this very important to take the first step. Whenever there's something that you want to do, if it's part of you, then you should probably do it because you don't want to be on your deathbed, hopefully long time from now, and think, man, I really wish I had done that. Man, I really wish I'd have pulled the trigger on my dreams. Man, I really wish I'd have learned that skill. Man, I really wish I should have kissed that girl. Man, I really wish I'd have taken that job opportunity. You don't want regret. I'm kind of scared to go to nursing homes because I don't want to see the look on people's faces. I know there's going to be at least one person in there with that look. It's not about doing it tomorrow, it's about doing it today. If you want to learn technical analysis, CT2A is linked in the description down below. There's a pretty big sale going on right now. You guys will get a lot of value out of it. There's 1,400 students who can attest to that. If you'd like to talk to any one of them, you can join our free Discord server down below and maybe get mentioned in a video if you do some awesome technical analysis in the technical analysis tab, like Freedom Rider did today. 14-day full money-back refund guarantee. Yes, we do accept Bitcoin payments, as the sign behind me says, and I look forward to hearing your success story in a few years after you've learned technical analysis, made some profits. I'd love for you to email me and say, hey, Jeb, it all started with the Academy. Here's what's happened ever since. I love getting emails like that. I've gotten emails like that before. I've got some amazing emails from you guys, and I love reading them. Guys, CT2A is linked in the description down below. If you want to learn technical analysis, it's the place to go. But that is going to do it for this video. If you guys did enjoy, like I said, hit that like and subscribe button and the post notification bell. It helps out the channel when you do that. But for now, though, guys, that will have to wrap it for today's video. Before I go, I do first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching as always, though, and I will see you guys